All right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to this edition of This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we give you the goings on in the past week in the world of pop culture, whether we're talking about film and TV news, tech news, sports news, local news, and the like. We try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And as always, every single week, I'm not going to be alone in talking about these said topics. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, a.k.a. Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I just want to remind you that LeBron made it to the second round when he was 41 years old. A feat never duplicated by many, including the great Michael Jeffrey Jordan. He ain't played when he was 41, and we know he wasn't making the playoffs in his 40. So, I'm having a great week.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad you're having a great week, Spills. But we're going to dive into that because I think the ship is about to sail on that said Cinderella run that you guys had on that first round. But be that as it may, we had a lot to get into. We have, of course, as you can see in the background, we have John Wick spinoff that has started production, which I'm super excited about. I want to be able to dive into. But before we get into that, just as Spills tease, we're going to get into some sports news with the current standings, as it were, with the NBA postseason, where there were quite, and I don't know how you feel about this, Spills. There were quite a lot of shockers and surprises. Whether with series that we have that are still ongoing that I thought would have been done by now, and then some folks who made it out of the first round that I didn't anticipate were going to make it out of the first round. So we're definitely going to, discuss that. But we also have a trailer that came out for a well-known survival horror video game franchise that is receiving a reboot of sorts in the film space as a film adaptation. So we're going to get into that too. So without further ado, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
All right, excellent, excellent. Now, as always, I'm going to make it a point to, or say, make efforts to have timestamps accordingly after the show is aired, so that way you can skip forward and backwards to your heart's content of those said stories. But with that, we're going to get into our sports cooler talk. As I said, there were quite a few things to dive into, but we're going to start first on Tuesday as we had an announcement of sorts with the Celtics president of basketball operations, Brad Stevens, was named the 2025-2026 NBA Executive of the Year, assembling a team that finished 56-26 in the 2025-2026 regular season. The Celtics secured a top 2 seed in the NBA playoffs for the 5th straight season, matching Stevens' 5th season in his current role. The voting panel for the 2025-2026 NBA Basketball Executive of the Year award consisted of basketball executives from NBA teams. The balloting was tabulated by the independent accounting firm Ernst & Young, LLP. Stevens earns the honor for the second time, having previously received it in the 2023-2024 season. He is the 12th executive to win the award multiple times since it was first presented in the 1972-1973 season. Meanwhile, this week, the playoffs have not disappointed thanks to shockers that have occurred as some unlikely teams have advanced and some are on the precipice of doing so. On Monday, the Thunder secured their sweep of the Suns. Tuesday saw the Spurs secure a gentleman's sweep of the Trailblazers, while Thursday saw the Knicks convincingly punch their ticket in their series closeout against the Hawks, and the T-Wolves would shock the Nuggets in their series clincher. Not to be outdone, the Lakers wrapped up their series against the Rockets, and yesterday, speaking of the Celtics, they saw their aspirations to move on in the postseason get dampered by the 76ers, who upset them to move on to the Eastern Conference semifinals. So, Spills, your thoughts on the series that have wrapped and those that are set to conclude today, along with, of course, the news of the Executive of the Year award.
Sorry. These are interesting developments. The second round is upon us, except for the two game sevens that we've got this evening, which are amazing, amazing game sevens. We're very excited for those. Shout outs to Philly for winning last night. I think that this is like the fourth or fifth time in the history of the NBA that Philadelphia has actually beaten the Celtics in a game seven. Usually, that's not how these things go. All the way back to the great Bill Russell, which is amazing. I think that the second round is very intriguing. I think we may have some chalk, though. I think that it will be 1-2, 1-2 in both conferences. Um, I'm interested to see um, the Brad Stevens getting executive of the year. Obviously, Brad Stevens is a great executive, but they lost in the first round. So that's a
Yeah, I
regular
know.
season award. But,
That's why I
you
wanted to
know,
bring it up. I felt that it was fascinating. This happened on Tuesday, and then just yesterday we had the closeout of the Celtics in the first round. And I'm gonna be honest, Spills, I did not see this coming. I know we were talking about like a lot of these matchups and who we had coming out of each of the said series, and that was not on my bingo card for the 76ers to make it out of the first round. I don't know how you feel about that.
um, I think that for these game sevens, I think that the Pistons may win. And I think that James Harden will finally have some testicular fortitude and will win the series for the Cavs. It shouldn't be 3-3. I don't know anybody who plays for the Raptors. I don't think you know anybody that plays for the Raptors. So I'm interested to see what is going on. Um, I just think that that's basically the things that I'm interested in. I can't wait to see. Um, I don't think that the Timberwolves have anything for the Spurs. I
I
think that the
agree.
Lakers, we might could win. We might could win 2 games. If we could win 4 games, that will be the most amazing thing in the history of basketball. And you'd have to say
Wow.
that LeBron is the GOAT. You would have
Wow.
to say LeBron is the GOAT.
Wow.
Um, and then in the East, obviously the other two teams that have been decided are the Knicks and the 76ers. I got the Knicks over the 76ers. I
I
think that the
agree.
76ers are good, but they don't have the bodies to match with the Knicks. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll say this, just kind of going down the line of the matchups that we've had so far in the first round. Um, it looks like the West have already kind of tabulated who we're going to have in these semi-conference finals. And if we're talking about the first round, just recapping what I had mentioned before and how they're good thing this wasn't, what would you have a bracket, contest of who you thought was going to advance because mine would have been done already. But when we're talking about the Thunder and the Suns, I don't see anyone taking out the Thunder. I see them getting all the way to the conference finals, no matter who's in front of them. Not even the conference finals, I should say. Let me correct that. Getting all the way to the finals and representing the West. So not a shocker that they completely swept the Suns. I'm going to be honest, and when we were talking about the Lakers and Rockets, I did have the Rockets getting past you guys. And then that's just by virtue of having KD on that team and having the athleticism that they had on that team. But stranger things have happened, in the series finals. So, I'll tip my hat to you guys. When we're talking about the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, that is definitely a shocker because you're talking about a team that had pretty much a lot of their pieces available to play. And despite that, they still weren't able to close it out against a Timberwolves team that is very depleted and had a lot of their folks out that are key components of their team, particularly, Anthony Edwards that, strikes out immediately because when we're thinking of those other times that he has played against the Nuggets, he has dismantled them, but he wasn't 100% and he didn't even play like
Yep.
in a game. So that's just crazy to think about. I don't know where they're going to go from here, or what the next step would be for them because when we're thinking of the pieces that they have now, I'm just trying to think of what moves they can make to kind of change their fate, so to speak, because the West is going to continue to get better. The Thunder have so many options between the talent that they already have, the what is it, the picks that they have going forward into the future. Like it's pretty amazing what they have been able to kind of navigate through in terms of the talent that they currently have, and the flexibility that they have with draft picks. Um, and when we're talking about the what is it, the Spurs and the Trailblazers, I'm surprised that they even got a game in there. I actually had them completely sweeping the Blazers. I didn't think it was going to be a gentleman's sweep. I thought they were
Well,
going to.
they knocked out Wimby. If they didn't knock out Wimby,
They
I think
did.
it would have been a sweep. If they didn't knock out
Agreed.
the big fella, I think that
Agreed.
they would have just been steamrolled. So
Agreed.
they got lucky. They got
Gr-
lucky.
Agreed. Agreed. And I know you said that you had the Pistons coming out and out of that matchup with the Magic, but I don't know at this point. After seeing what we had happen with the with the Sixers and with the Celtics, and me believing that the Celtics were going to steamroll the 76ers, I don't know. I don't know what that. I actually had the Pistons coming out of that, but based on what we've seen momentum wise in this year's playoffs, the Magic may steal this one because I didn't have them getting 3 games on the Pistons at all in any shape or form. And the fact that they've got that many, I don't know. It may really be a Cinderella year where a lot of these lower seeds are edging out these higher seeds. So that's a toss up. The same goes for the Cavaliers and the Raptors. Like I thought that was also going to be a steamroll. With the talent that we're talking about that the Cavaliers have, and just what you were mentioning of being able to immediately name drop so many of the Raptors in comparison to the Cavs. I can do way better with the Cavs than I can with the Raptors. And kudos
Who
to the
knows who
Raptors.
those guys are? They play in a different
Kudos
country. They don't play in America.
kudos to them for pushing this series to a game 7. So I don't know. It could be anyone's series with either one of those, and that now that actually really cements my pick for the Thunder repeating, because some of those teams that I thought would have a chance to knock them out, they're having trouble with teams that they should, under most circumstances, be rolling over. So like, and they're having trouble with teams that you're not anticipating that they would have trouble with. And I don't know if it's just that they're just letting their foot off the gas and they're just looking ahead and not focusing on what's in front of them. But this is the playoffs. Anything is possible. You need to focus on the opponent that you have in front of you in your current series, and then take it a series at a time. Don't look ahead to what's in front of you, because you can run in danger of getting yourself knocked out, far earlier than you anticipate you will. Because even with the Celtics, I know the Celtics don't have a lot of size, but they have so many weapons in terms of being able to shoot. But as we found out in that last game, that was the very thing that kind of dismantled them in this game 7. You live by the 3, you die by the 3. So um, when we're talking about these semifinal matchups, I can't see your Lakers getting past the Thunder, and I don't know in what world you may think they may get past them. Maybe you feel that they will. More power to you. I don't think they're gonna get past the Thunder. The Spurs are going to get past the Timberwolves, and then we're going to get a repeat of that matchup with the Thunder and Spurs. And I agree with you. The Spurs have been the one team that have been able to have the number of the Thunder, but I don't know if they are going to be able to meet that moment of pushing through to the finals. This, and when we're thinking of the first series, if memory served, and I'll look at it again, that Victor Wembanyama was very emotional about winning that initial series that he just had against the Trailblazers, because it's his first series win, playoff series win in his career. And when you're focused on winning a championship, you can't get that caught up in one series. And I know it's a big deal. It's the first time you've ever done it, but you need to have more poise in that, I feel, and really keep your eyes on the prize of focusing on the finals. And I think the fact that they won their first series are going to cause them to let their foot off the gas a bit, while the Thunder have always kind of had their eyes set on winning another championship, where it's like it's win or bust. And having that experience, I feel, makes a difference versus someone who's uh, making it through for the first time. Now, this isn't to say that I don't think the Spurs will have the Thunder's number in the future, now that they've had the success, or that I feel they will have the success getting all the way to the conference finals, but I can't see them representing the West. It's a toss up in the East. I feel like with the teams that are having the most trouble right now between the Pistons and the Cavaliers, I think the Knicks may make it out of the East, because if we're talking about a team that's the Pistons having that kind of trouble that they're having with the Magic, or the Cavaliers having with the Raptors, I feel the Knicks can handle the Magic, and I feel like even if the Raptors get out of there, that they would be able to dismantle them as well. So I feel like this is the Knicks' year to represent the East. Now that the Sixers, well, not the Sixers, the Celtics are out of the picture, and the other two teams that might have given them issues or problems may not even make it out of their respective first rounds. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I disagree. I think that the
Okay.
Spurs are basically zoned in. I think that the fact that they kind of got a bye in this next round with the Timberwolves being hobbled. Sure, the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets without Anthony Edwards, but they're not going to beat the Spurs without Anthony Edwards. If he can't play all 7 games, they're not going to win that. And they're talking he's going to be out a couple of weeks. So that's basically over for him. Um,
So we're agreed on that series, but yeah, go ahead.
But I think that once the conference finals come around, whoever's facing the Spurs is going to lose. And if it's the Thunder, I definitely feel that it's going to lose because of Victor Wembanyama's frosty relationship with Chet Holmgren. He does not like that tall kid. He says, Maine, that sounds like a French word. So he don't like him. He does not like that boy, and he is not nice to him. So I just think that he is going to destroy that guy. And I can't see. I've been saying it. This is Victor Wembanyama's year. I think he's the MVP. I know that everyone thinks Shea is going to get it, but I don't know. Shea has got a collection of players around him where they're mostly all-star level players. Outside of De'Aaron Fox, I feel like Victor Wembanyama's created all these guys. So um, I
I
just
mean, you
think
have
that
Castle in there. I mean, you have some players. You have Harper. You have Castle. You have Fox. So I mean, they have a nice
Fox is an all-star level player. The rest of those guys, if they were not playing on the Spurs, we would
Castle.
not know. We would not know who he was if he did not play on the Spurs.
Castle, you're saying?
We would not know who he was if he was
Wow.
playing on the Spurs. Because
Wow.
maybe he'd make
Okay.
a little bit more points for someone else. Like, let's say he played on the Wizards. You would know who he was if he played on the Wizards.
Wow. Even though I don't have them getting past the Thunder, I still feel like that's blasphemous to say that about
It's
about
crazy.
Castle. Castle is an incredible player, and I don't care what team. Don't get me wrong. I feel like with the Spurs, he complements the game of Victor Wembanyama very well. But I feel like when you're placing him with another big man, it would help complement his game. So I don't know if I agree on that take, but I feel like we are in agreement when it comes to that Timberwolves and Spurs series. But I think the experience part is going to get the better of the Spurs. And don't get me wrong, it's not going to be it's going to be an incredible series. It's going to go all the way down in the wires, either 6 or 7 games. But I still have the Thunder getting out of it. So I mean, hypothetically, saying that you're saying that the Spurs would get out of,
I've got the
um,
Spurs going all the way. I say the Knicks are going to come out
okay.
because they're the most experienced and they've battled the. I feel like they were really battle tested last year. So if
Do you
the
think any of
Cavaliers
those
have
other
been
teams can
together.
dismantle them? Can dethrone them?
Maybe the Cavs, but the Cavs haven't been together long enough
Mm.
to battle that. I think if they were together much longer, it would be better. But I think that because of the time that they've been playing together, basically a couple of months, um, when that chemistry it really shows up in the playoffs. So if you're not all the way
Indeed.
together by the playoffs, if you're not all the way gelling, and they've gone to a game six already with a team that no one knows. So to me, I don't think that the Cavs maybe, that will be the person, the team that I have left over, but I don't think so. I think that it's the Knicks versus the Spurs, a rematch of the '99 finals, and we'll sleep through it because it's going to be a sweep.
Well, we can agree on this. Regardless of what happens in the East, the West is going to come out with the title. Whoever represents the West, I don't see in any scenario the East coming out with the win for the finals. So I feel like we could at least agree on that. Whether you feel it's going to be the Spurs or whether I feel it's going to be the Thunder, that either one of
It's the
those
West. No, for sure,
it's
for
going to
sure.
be
It's
the
like
West
it's
for
like early
sure.
2000s. Like if you make it out the West, you're gonna win a chip. Like them teams on that other side are not on y'all level.
For sure, for sure. So let me ask this then. Speaking of that, in terms of kind of the huge discrepancy between the West and the East, how do you feel? Going back to what they mentioned with Brad Stevens being the executive, uh, how do you feel about how the Celtics did? And do you feel like it was a fluke that they had the year that they had, or do you feel like they just took their foot off the gas for the first round?
I think they lost Tatum. I think that Tatum came back a little too fast. But we talked about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
Availability is the best ability, but if you come back too fast, you might be back gone. Like that is the thing that happens. Injuries are injuries for a reason. You shouldn't you usually have to wait a year plus for
but he
soft
was
tissue
playing well.
injuries.
So do you feel like
He
it just
was.
disrupted their momentum?
I think that no, I think that him not playing was a blow, and they had seen this in the playoffs last year, and I think that they shrunk emotionally after he couldn't show up for them, even though without him they were a much better team than the Sixers were this year without him. So
Yeah.
that mental piece, that cohesion, it's very important. So I think that I would give Brad Stevens the executive of the year because they were so good with somebody that a number one player with them going out. So that's where I would think it is.
Do you
I
think
I
they should
really
have sat
respect
him
that.
out for the season, or do you think they should have
No,
just
I
waited
don't.
another series?
But I think that this is the risk that you run with this kind of issue.
So I'm
That's the
asking,
risk you
what do
run.
you what would you have done? Would you wait to have him playing in a latter series, or would you just have him sit?
I would have just played him. Honestly, I wouldn't have sat him. Obviously, you can't predict the future, and you try to play. So, I think that's what I would have done. But it's just crazy to see.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, let us know in the comments how you feel about it. Are you shocked by some of the series results that we've had? I know I have been shocked, in many cases where some teams that I expected to, as we just talked about, steamroll their way through the series. They're either still in their current series, struggling to make it out of it, or they're already, in Cancun on the beach somewhere in a couple of days because they already are going home. So let us know in the comments, who you have going forward, representing the East, representing the West, and your reasons behind that. But with that, we're going to move on to sneak peeks this week. As I had mentioned at the top, let me see here. Yeah, as I mentioned at the top, we did have a trailer that was released for the reboot of a well-known video game franchise. And the film that I am talking about is none other than Resident Evil. See if I can bring that up now. Here we go. But yes, it's a teaser that dropped on Friday. Film adaptation of the horror survival game Resident Evil. It's directed by Weapons and Barbarian director Zach Krager. Resident Evil is a reinvention of the horror franchise, telling an all new story which follows Brian, played by Austin Abrams, a medical courier who unfittingly finds himself in an action-packed, non-stop race for survival as one fateful, horrifying night collapses around him in chaos. Resident Evil is scheduled to horrify audiences on September 18th, 2026. Spills, your thoughts on the reinvention of the franchise?
I am interested to see what they do with this. It's kind of crazy that we've gotten to the point where, you know how they do the HD remaster of a video game. Now we got HD remasters of video game movies. They just, I just, I love nostalgia as much as the next man. Nostalgia is great. You know, it gives you that feeling right here in your chest where my Lakers logo is, right here. You feel nostalgia. You think about, oh, Shaq and Kobe used to be good. Wow, Magic Johnson used to throw crazy passes. You have nostalgia. You think about the past, but I've had enough of nostalgia. Like I can't do nostalgia no more. I love Resident Evil. You know, I feel like they just didn't want to give Mila Djokovic no more checks. I think she deserves the checks because she is Jill Valentine. I think that, you know, we got to give that lady her money. But
Well, she wasn't Jill Valentine. She was a
I'm
fresh
sorry,
character.
she was okay.
Alice. Jill
Okay,
was
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
in the franchise, but she was, yeah,
You
she was
know,
a fresh character. I know it's been a minute.
she was
It's
so
been a minute.
awesome that I anointed her.
It's
I
been a minute.
anointed her to
I'll give you
Jill.
that.
But still to this day, why are we doing this? Like, I get that it's cool. We like zombies. That's cool and stuff. But what is this? Like, it looks cool. I will probably check it out, but too much nostalgia. Let's stop rebooting stuff. There's other games we could do. Maybe we could do. You know, it'd be cool. They did a Horizon Zero Dawn show or movie. That'd be pretty cool. Have a robot, dinosaurs and horses and stuff running around, and
Nah, we need
instead
to
of
do
it
a
just being zombies.
Gears of War movie. Where's my Gears of War movie? That's what we need.
There you go. There you go.
So,
Something we could do
um,
something.
but being and I feel like we talked about this. They did do a Halo series, but I feel like how they approached that series could have been done differently, and I felt like they waited too long on. It wasn't until what the second season. At that point, the show had already been canceled. That they left it on the cliffhanger of us having a flood, and I felt like they should have done that in the first season. But be that as it may, I'm not going to recap all of that stuff. But in talking about Resident Evil and what we have going on here with this franchise is we have the Mila Jovovich, original franchise that you mentioned with husband Paul W.S. Anderson, who was the director of a lot of those films, and those films were fine, for what they were. They were more action films, if anything, than being horror films. And when you're thinking of Resident Evil, don't get me wrong, there is a great deal of action in it, but when we're talking about the roots of Resident Evil, we're talking about instances, at least from my experience of playing the games, it is an experience in which you are completely out of your depth, completely out of your element. You're dealing with a situation that is leagues beyond what a normal person should be able to deal with, and somehow, which is what has been my experience playing the game. Somehow, by the skin of your teeth, you make it out of there. You start off not having a lot of resources, and then as the game progresses, you're able to acquire resources that you can utilize in order for you to get through all of these crazy experiences that you have, whether it's with zombies or whether it's with other creatures that are created from the T virus. So the director has gone on record, Zach Krager has gone on record of stating that there will be zombies in this film, but he has also highlighted that he wanted to really focus on what the T virus can do to any living being that it comes in or living entity that it comes in contact with, and this kind of exploring that. So I am interested in us seeing what he does with that in the other films that he's done. Obviously, whether we're talking about Barbarian or with Weapons, they're incredible movies. They are creepy movies. So, I feel like he will be able to pull off that aesthetic of horror and creepiness that I feel is necessary when we're talking about Resident Evil. Um, I know with all of that said, I am on, I want to say right in the middle. I am curious about the film, but I do have my hesitations because while some people have kind of congratulated Zach on the fact that he is utilizing this aesthetic of the resources component that we have from the games of not having a lot of resources and delving back into the roots of horror that you have in the games. I feel like we're still potentially retracing a lot of things that we did before when we had the Mila Jovovich franchise. And to your point, it's quite a while ago. So don't fault you for saying that she was Jill, because Jill did pop up in the second film in that respective franchise. But when we're talking about that franchise, it did start off as kind of a horror franchise. When we're talking about those that first film, and then as the series progressed, it started to divert further and further away from that and became more of an action franchise than a horror franchise. And then when they did the recent reboot, because this isn't the first time this film franchise has been rebooted, they tried to be more what is it more dedicated to the source material by making it a period piece and having, I don't know if you remember this, having it
Hmm.
be directly in Raccoon City and actually following some of the characters, which had mixed results in that regard, because you also had characters who weren't acting like their respective characters. A good example of that would be Leon, uh, in that film franchise, who's kind of a buffoon and wasn't the capable character fighter that we know from the games. And I understood the thought process behind it, but I feel like they made him too much of a buffoon for you to actually believe that he would be able to transition into the character that we know in the games. So um, hopefully with this film, with the the end with Zach being behind it, that they're able to find a nice medium, because he has explained that he wanted the film to kind of take place within Resident Evil, and you have this character who's not a game character experiencing what's happening in the city during the events of the game. So he's kind of on the periphery of the events of the game. He is in Raccoon City. He is experiencing uh, the things that are happening there. Is just that he's not specifically that character. So elsewhere, the events of the game are happening in Raccoon City. He's just, experiencing it in his own way elsewhere in Raccoon City. So uh, I like that they're able to do that. I will be interested to see what creatures they're able to come up with, um, I, or if they're able to include some creatures from the game. I have a sneaking suspicion, based on what I saw, that Krieger may get a little creative in that regard in terms of some creatures that may not even be from the game. But as long as we're able to have some creatures there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be ones that we've had before, but if we have some in there, I would be happy. So we'll see. We'll see. We have until September. A lot can happen within that time in terms of what they need to wrap up with. I'm assuming with effects and things like that. So uh, I am curious about the film, but I'm cautiously optimistic because I've been burned before twice. In the first franchise, it became too much of an action franchise, and then in the second one, I feel like they were trying too hard to remain true to the game. And in doing so, they kind of alienated themselves, and kind of got themselves into a corner in terms of some of the decisions that were made in that said film. So um, let us know in the comments how you guys feel about it. Uh, are you guys excited for this new Resident Evil film? Are you excited for the person who's behind it? As I say, you have the director of Weapons, and you had the director of Barbarian. Let us know in the comments. But with that, we're going to get into our main topic story. So let me see if I can bring that up now. As you can see here in the background, the main discussion today is going to be the spinoff film following the Kane character from John Wick Chapter 4. This is the story that we have in our film and TV talk this week. And it was announced on Saturday via Instagram by star Donnie Yen that production had commenced on the said spinoff. While details are scarce in terms of plot, what is known is that Yen will also be directing the film. So, Phil's, your thoughts on the upcoming spinoff?
Um, I'm interested in this. Imp Man was crazy in this John Wick movie. I know that he has an actual name, but I call him Imp
Donnie
Man.
Yen, yeah.
His name's Imp Man. So I'm just excited to see what he is going to do in this movie. He is a fantastic martial artist. Obviously, we know him as Imp Man. You know you a bad dude when they name you after the first time we seen you, and that's your character for the rest of the time. But I'm very interested in it. I love the John Wick universe. Excuse me. I love what it has become and spun into. I love that they're still using practical effects and they get people who are actually martial artists and not, have robot versions of themselves fighting on TV, like just cartoon characters essentially. I'm just very interested in the John Wick franchise. I love the gung fu. That's my favorite. I know you love it, Brandon. So how do you feel about this?
So I have a couple of thoughts on it, and let me see. I'm gonna want to bring up the actual post itself. See if I could do that now. And as I said, this is you can find this on Donnie Yen's Instagram. Let me see here. Stop screen. Okay. Okay, here we go. So as I said, this was shared on Saturday. See if I can get this up here. There we go. So, in talking about this film, I'm a big film of the John Wick franchise. And here you can see right here, that's his tagline. Here we go. Um, Big fan of the John Wick franchise. Who would have thought that we would get four incredible action films out of this franchise that in the beginning no one really thought much about, and then it kind of took on a life of its own in terms of how creative they were with establishing the universe and the world building with the Continental and the currency that they use and the different rules and regulations that are a part of this said world of assassins. But then the only criticism that I have for this said franchise is the fact that while we know that this is a heightened world of assassins, it started to get unruly and a little superhero-esque in terms of some of the things that were happening in the film where people were falling from buildings, people were falling from multiple stories and walking away to till, not breaking any bones. Like, so I guess that's my only thing that I'm glad that we're having it continue with the franchise spills. But one, we're getting a character that we know can go toe to toe with John Wick, because that's always I feel like an issue when we're talking about a spin-off film of a well-known franchise, especially if it's a character that we know that's introduced in addition to our main hero character. That's always something that I feel subconsciously kind of works against spin-off films, because we're always thinking, well, if we had the main hero in this film, they would be able to do such and such. But we've already seen what this character can do, and we've seen how he compares to John Wick, which is comparable. And as a matter of fact, spoiler alert, he's the person who took out John Wick. So in having a character like that, I feel like that places him in a different category when we're talking about spin-off films, and that gives him a good platform or jumping off point to go into his own franchise. And then the other part of it that's great too is it provides an interesting opportunity of utilizing his limitations, just like we saw in chapter 4. This is an assassin who is blind, so he has to utilize different gadgets and things in order to compensate for that said blindness. And there are a lot of opportunities that you can utilize there in order to um highlight maybe his to highlight his strengths of having being a lot sharper with his other senses, and then also playing into that limitation that he has with his sight too. So I feel like the sky's the limit of being able to kind of explore those said things. My only thing is, who are you going to get to go up against, as you said, Ip Man, aka Donnie Yen? Who are you going to have? Who are you going to have to go up against him to be an acceptable challenge? Because I feel like Donnie Yen was an incredible challenge as Kane for John Wick in chapter 4. So how are you going to up the ante and give him someone to go up against that's relatively uh, uh, capable, that you can see yourself like, oh man, like Yen is in trouble. I don't know if he's going to be able to win the day like against this person. Who are they going to put him up against? That would be my question, because they've already had a lot of like quote unquote action icons in the franchise so far. We've had Scott Atkins. A lot of people don't even realize that heavy character that you had, that kind of gangster character that you had in chapter 4, was Scott Atkins. He was just in a
Hmm.
bodysuit. So, I mean, many of the people that I would think would be a terrific challenge for Donnie Yen, we've already had in the John Wick franchise so far. They've either been killed off already, or they've already appeared. So like, who else is there that you can throw in there? So maybe you guys out there have some ideas of who that could be. You can let us know in the comments of some people that perhaps Yin can go up against in his spinoff franchise. But I don't know how you feel about that, Spills. Are there any folks that you can think of offhand that would be a viable threat against Donnie Yen?
Michael John White, he could be like the fiendish Doctor Wu. I think they're getting Black
Okay.
Dynamite in there in this universe. Is
Okay.
begging for a guy like him.
Okay. I like
He's
it.
pretty
I like
cool
it.
with his gunplay.
I like it.
Obviously he's more heavy on the martial arts than the actual gunplay, but him doing gun fu would be pretty crazy. I think that
I like
Michael
it.
John White,
Okay.
he's one of the goats. We all love him. But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs to the community. I think that would be great. Maybe John Cena. I think I'd like to see John Cena as a big bad and something like that.
Okay.
He was pretty
Okay.
cool in the
I feel like you have to have a martial artist. I like Michael John White. I feel like you have to have a martial artist, like in order to
okay.
go. I think it has to be. I guess the only other thing that I would say too, do you think, because you saw chapter 4, do you think that they're going to bring back the other guy that we had, the one with the dog? Because he was cool too.
Yeah, the brother man was pretty cool. I don't remember his name. Sorry, viewers
You gotta
and
bring it up. Yeah,
guy
yeah, yeah.
from John Wick 4. But I think that somebody like that's why I was thinking Michael John White. He would be great in that situation. Um, yeah, him. I can't think of
I
anybody
mean, the only
who's like
other person
because
I can think of is Tony Jaa, maybe.
yeah, but this is the problem with the new Hollywood. They don't even hire people who do martial arts anymore.
Uh, I mean, I feel like
They
you
aren't.
have you do have some folks out there. It's just that, like I said, I can't think of anyone formidable for him to go up against. That when you're thinking of your villain in a given franchise, in the John Wick franchise, they've always continued to up the ante with characters that they had in the first film. Obviously, I feel like there wasn't really anyone particularly formidable, but that's just because you kind of had to hype up John Wick himself. In the second film, I feel like it was more of the character's resources than necessarily their ability as a fighter. I don't feel like we really got into villains who were formidable threats against John Wick until the third film. And let me correct that, because even in the second film, you did have what is it? Thinking of the singer. Help me out here. The Common was in the second film, and he
Hmm.
was a cool character. But outside of him, there wasn't really anyone who was a formidable threat as a villain. So when you're talking
That's
about,
why I said somebody like a John Cena, maybe, because John Cena physically is so imposing towards somebody like Ip Man. But Ip Man, I would take Ip Man in that fight because Ip Man can fight. John Cena just big. Like I think that that's always been a great spectacle in
Tracker was the
acting.
character's name, Shamir
Okay,
Anderson. Tracker.
so shout out to you, Shamir. You were pretty cool in that movie, but we want Michael Jai White for the next one. Let's bring in Michael Jai White, and then
I like that.
perhaps,
I wasn't even thinking about that. You're absolutely right. I do like
yeah,
that.
I think because he's also got the physicality. He
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
a step, obviously, because he's getting older, but I don't think he's lost enough of a step because
I
Ip
think they
Man
can
ain't
still
that
pull it
young
off.
either.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah.
can still pull it off. That would be incredible. So yeah, I do. I didn't even think about that. Thanks so much for that. I wasn't even thinking of Michael Jai White, but that is an incredible, pick there. Because when we're thinking of some of the other characters, like I said, you also have Mark Dacascos, who was in the what is it, John Wick 3, and the other fighters that you had there that were from the raid that were also a part of that film. But now that you've had them in chapter three, I feel like now you can't bring them back, for Kane's movie. So yeah, Michael Jai White would be an incredible addition. But as I said, if there are any other options that you guys can think of, in that category who would be able to go toe to toe with Donnie Yen, you can let us know down below of some possibilities. But yeah, overall, I am excited about this film because I felt like John Wick was kind of getting into, if you know what I mean, he was starting to get into Fast and Furious territory where it was somewhat grounded, and then as a lot of the latter installments came around, don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed them. They started to get more and more fantastical and more ridiculous in terms of you're telling me where I kept saying, "Come on, man!"
Hmm.
Like he survived
Suits
that.
that are
He got
bulletproof, just
he
being
got
like
hit
this.
by a
Cha,
car. He got hit by
cha,
a car 4 or 5 times,
cha.
and you telling me he's still walking the tail to tail? He
Yep.
jumped off. He got thrown off of the floor of a nightclub and landed on his back, and he's okay. He jumped out of the window of a building and landed on the concrete street on on his feet and still
No
walked
broken
with the
legs.
tail, no broken legs, nothing. I know he's John Wick, but come on, bro. He went down the stairs 3 and 4 times over like hundreds and hundreds of stairs, and you're telling me he still managed to fight at the end and have that matchup at the end. I know he's John Wick, but come on. I know he has the Kevlar with the suit, as you said, but come on. So now they don't have to address that anymore. Now they have a fresh take with a different character who, again, we know can go up against John Wick, so there's no question of that. But now we can explore that character, and now we can kind of reset things in terms of the expectations of that world, with the believability there. But we can also explore something cool with the character being blind and what he can and cannot do. And it could provide some suspenseful moments too. The fact that he's also blind, so that where he's not able to utilize a lot of the gadgets that he has in order to get past any of his opponents. So yeah, definitely excited for that. I love that Donnie Yen is going to be directing it, so we're going to have some incredible sequences in that film, in terms of how it's shot. But with that, we're going to close off this edition of This Week in Pop Culture. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to punt it over to Spills. Spills, can you tell folks where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram. This is a special shout out to my grandmother who passed on Monday.
Yes, shout out.
Shout
Condolences,
out
man.
to her, a great woman. A lot of you DC faithful may know her. She was an educator in the DC public school system, a principal at Ketchum Elementary for better part of 40 years.
Wow.
Just a great person, traveled all over the world. Shout outs to you, Mumsy.
Indeed, indeed, and condolences there. So yes, shout out, shout out. You can find me at on X at Brandon Choi ENT, and then of course on IG at Brandon Choi _ENT. With that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see y'all soon. Peace.
Peace, 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 guys. Peace.